And I want to thank you, Jon, and you, Solon, for doing this, and to the whole community. I haven't been with you from the start, but I've been with you long enough to benefit greatly. And I guess I have a question, and it's this. It didn't just start with the death of George Floyd, but it's kind of just hit me to a point where it's very, very painful, and I feel like I'm experiencing almost like a post-traumatic stress. It's like if I think about it, I almost get physically sick. And you know, I do believe that silence is complicity. And at the same time, I'm a half an hour from New Haven, Connecticut, and there are protests there. And if I'm really honest about it, I think I'm afraid to go for two reasons. One is because of the virus, but more importantly, I think, is that I'm close to your age, Jon. I'm almost there, and I really am afraid that I could get hurt. But to do nothing seems so wrong, and it's in addition to that, I'm just really struggling emotionally, and I've had guilt for even when I was a young kid. I don't know whether in another life I did something horrible, but I've always been very sensitive to the inequalities that exist. And
I don't think you need to saddle yourself with another life about that. Just that's a beautiful quality.
Well, I wish I could see the beauty in it, because I just come up with feeling I'm coming up very, very short. And I'm watching this, and here I am sitting in my house, and it just doesn't seem right. And I have to be very careful what I watch on TV, because it's just, I don't know. I'd like to be optimistic.
It's too much. It's so overwhelming, and there's so much toxicity. There's so much toxicity. And then, as I was pointing out, watch tonight. You'll see something that I hadn't seen before, and quite a bit of it. And you don't have to watch for hours. You'll see it in like 15 minutes. Then in terms of getting out there, I mean, we're in the middle of a pandemic. So the decision to like go down to New Haven and join the crowd, well, if you do it, put on a mask, wear a good mask, and take care of yourself. But I want to resonate. I want to appreciate your impulse. And you don't need to put yourself down either way. The very fact that you care is its own embodied statement of love. You don't have to put yourself down for that, or think you're inadequate because you're not on the barricades or whatever. And if your heart is there, just watching it on television, or just knowing that it's not wise for you to do it, there's no right response to this. But if you listen to your heart, maybe you'll do something audacious, out of the usual. And there's no reason to not be audacious just because we're as old as we are. Maybe we need to be more audacious and see what unfolds, but to do it sensibly. I don't know what that is. You don't know what that is, but we can stretch the envelope in some way or other. And then depending on how much love is there and how it wants to be expressed. So let us know in a week or two if there's something to tell us, something to share. We'll try to make sure we look out for you, Corinne, and maybe you can give us a report from the front, whether it's the front in New Haven or the front in your own, living room. Doesn't matter.
Okay.
Doesn't matter. The really most important thing is your relationship with yourself. And when you understand that yourself doesn't, as I said during the guided meditation, end at the envelope of your skin, that your heart really is as wide as the world, that, that you are there in solidarity in a certain way, that could be just right in this particular moment. And it ain't over till it's over. So you don't know what it's going to be like in a week, in a month, in a year. And the world needs you every single breath along the way to when, it's your last or my last or any of our last. Because, I was once asked, maybe I said this before, but I think it's worth repeating. I was once like on a program with Oprah and Oprah Winfrey, and she asked me out of the blue, like, John, what do you think of life after death? What's your opinion of life after death? And we were talking about mindfulness, and uh, and I said to her, Oprah, I'm not at all interested in the question of whether there's life after death. I'm interested in the question of whether there's life before death. So that's the curriculum for all of us. Do we unconsciously go to our graves and then wake up, as Thoreau spoke so eloquently about not wanting to get caught doing? Or do we wake up now? And, and let the dying take care of itself. Maybe what we need to do is really take care of the living. And when we see pain out there in the living, through poverty, through disease, through a kind of sequestration driven by greed and kind of anger and hatred to actually squeeze the life out of other people, whether it's literally by murdering somebody or it's capitalism doing its thing to make sure that the people who actually do the work get paid the least, and the people who do the least work get paid the unimaginable amounts of money. I mean, why does that have to be the only way that business can, succeed? I mean, I'm not talking about capitalism or socialism or any of those isms. I'm talking about, common intelligence. Again, not going to war between the liver and the heart or the lungs, but working collaboratively together with the resources that we have, which is the one breath. So money is kind of like the one breath. If you don't get that money, into your red blood cells, you expire. And we're seeing that out there in the streets. It's the result of hundreds of years of a certain kind of, I'll just say one more thing since I'm on a rant about it, but in the Declaration of Independence, which we hold up in the United States to be of like great importance, as like the document that told King George III that we could no longer tolerate their governing of us because of the injustice and the economic injustice and all of that. There's this famous phrase, life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. That's what we want, life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. But when a couple of years later, we got to writing the Constitution, which was all written by white men who were all landholders and fairly wealthy and property owners, life and liberty made their way into the Constitution, but the pursuit of happiness got switched for property. property. The property is more important than the people. And then the Supreme Court made corporations actually have equal value to human beings not so long ago. And we're suffering from the consequences of that kind of disregard for the essence of our humanity and the depth of our interconnectedness. And you'd have to be a lunatic to not see that that is a prescription for suffering and for ill health in the body politic and ill health on the planet. And that the global warming, because we're so industrious for the past 200 years with the Industrial Revolution and all the pollution that has come from it, having an effect on a little thing, small little molecule called carbon dioxide that is absorbed by the rainforest. So Brazil is, basically burning the lungs of the planet, along with Indonesia and other countries, clearing rainforest. It's like, okay, and yes, there are economic reasons for doing that, but can't we be smart enough to actually find a way to self-regulate where all the cells of the one body politic survive and we don't heat the planet to the point where, I don't want to get apocalyptic about it, but, we live on Earth, not Venus. And there's no life on Venus. Without our atmosphere, or where it's chock full of CO2 and methane, which is 10 times more of a greenhouse gas than CO2. Methane, and I won't go into where that comes from, but you probably know. The planet is warming, and we need to be industrious enough in our post-industrial wisdom to regulate that in the same way that we would regulate our putting on a mask, because we know that that prevents other people from getting infected if we're a carrier, and maybe protects us too. And, it's all about we rather than me. And it's all about mindfulness. It's about wakefulness. It's about wisdom. And that wisdom is compassion. There's no separation. And it's as boundless as that universe that we talk about with the supernovas, the black holes colliding, and the, infinite domain of, billions of light years. The distances are unimaginable to the human mind. And yet, people win Nobel Prizes for figuring this stuff out. But how can we take care of you and me and we and what's going on in New Haven and the injustice of New Haven's like, it's got Yale University and an enormous history of injustice, racial injustice. Maybe it's that moment. Only, I've emphasized this a lot, don't know. But let's see. And be the knowing that awareness already is. Everything that you know and you are. And also, we have to include the not knowing in this moment. Do I go? Do I not go? What do I risk? What do I not risk? You'll never figure it out with your thinking mind. You also have to listen to your heart. And then, so that means being the knowing and the knowing of not knowing, and being okay with it, at least a tiny bit. That's practice. At least as much practice as sitting on your butt in your house, which we've gotten really good at doing. And I got to say, deep bow to all of us for this retreat that we're on, which has gone through so many changes since we started before April, and is going to go through an awful lot more changes. But I hope by now, even if we ended it tonight, even if we just said, okay, we're not coming back to this retreat's forever. the explosion, those black holes colliding, they sent out that vibration. It went on for, you know, unimaginable distances in time. When that started, there was no life on Earth. We live in a very, very interesting universe, and this is our home, this planet. So I'll see you in the small groups. And
Thank
then
you so
tomorrow.
much.
Yeah.
I really appreciate it.
Well, be sure that you let us know how things unfold, okay?
Okay.
And just a deep bow to you for feeling what you're feeling and for your willingness to share that kind of existential dilemma of certain kind. And I'm sure that we're all resonating. I certainly resonate with that.